Welcome back. We are still with our segment Decision 2018. The three last candidates of our special election segment joining us. We do have Dennis Walsh here. We have got Caroline King and Jimmy Joe Hall joining us. Thank you very much for being here, you guys.
You're welcome.
You are our final batch of council candidates. That's what we're calling you. So you saw how this worked with the previous segment, of course, just picking a question out of our trusty envelope, giving you about 30 seconds or so to answer. So we will make sure that we shake this up and hope we don't get the same question as the other three candidates.
Be all right with me.
All right, this is the question that we have for you guys. Interior Health's supervised consumption sites have been operating in Kamloops for over a year. Are you in favor of the sites, and how would you propose dealing with the issue of discarded needles? Who wants to start? How about you, Dennis?
I can start, yeah. I'm definitely in favor of the consumption sites because we have an opioid crisis going on, and it's obviously, the reports are that it's really helped in the sense of mortality rates have gone down, and people are using it, obviously. It has some side effects, and obviously, which Caroline would know about the needle issues and stuff like that, but they've found a solution to that. So I just think one of the problems, I think, is maybe where they've located them, that they should probably move them around a few, because they tend to be a magnet for, you know, for other activities and stuff like that. So that's about the only criticism I would have, is that they should probably find other alternate locations temporarily and move them every couple of months or something.
Right. Caroline, what do you think about this?
So I'm a huge advocate for harm reduction, but I don't like the safe injection sites as they are. Okay. And the reason I don't is they miss an entire target audience. They, you know, the lawyer in town or the police officer is not going to go and stand in line outside where his colleagues and family members can see him waiting to enter the bus. And so I believe that it needs to be site-specific locations in every housing project that we put into the city, have their own space for those people. That also prevents it from creating a little community of its own that brings more troubles to the area. And so, yeah, I would like to see that as a more permanent location, and several more of them just in site-specific locations.
Jimmy, do you agree with these consumption sites?
I definitely believe it's a great thing to have here in Kamloops. It's actually hopefully saving lives, and that's the most important thing. I don't agree with the location. I think that's the worst location, especially since we're putting it next to supported services where a lot of people are trying to get away from drugs, and we're actually just putting it in their backyard. And if you just put it to an analogy, if your friend's trying to quit smoking and we're just throwing cigarettes in his backyard, that's not fair to him. And we should definitely be maybe shifting that, especially downtown, maybe even shift it closer to the hospital, get it away from the residents. And I think, you know, it is working, but we just need more data. We need to know how many people are unique that are using that facility. I know Interior Health isn't really giving us that unique number, and that's not fair to all of Kamloops. We need to know how many of those 7,000 people are different.
Yeah, I think, and maybe we'll get your thoughts on this. Is there, you know, there is a stigma that surrounds those who use drugs, those who might be, you know, accessing the consumption sites. Is there a need to reduce that stigma by moving them maybe into, you know, specific buildings? Would that help reduce that stigma?
I think that's exactly how you'd reduce it. You'd make it easier, and you know, just it just kind of takes it off the street where it's just thrown in everybody's face, right?
Yeah.
And maybe it reduces the amount of needles we need to hand out. You know, I see several times during the needle buyback that I ran recently is, you know, they're handing out 100 at a time.
Right.
So, you know, if we had site-specific locations, there's a chance maybe that would go a long way in reducing what's handed out. They'd be, you know, just be more spaces and better used.
How do you deal with discarded needles? I mean, there is the buyback, as you just mentioned, but what do you think about that, Dennis? I mean, what have you been hearing from people?
I'm impressed with the buyback program myself. I think that's one way to do it. I can just imagine how many bottles and everything else we'd have. We didn't have refunds on those. So, so I think it just works. And it's obviously, they've proven that it works. I think you had collected 10,000 needles.
10,000 for $500.
Yeah, so I'm in favor of that program. And I think it should be funded by AHA, Interior Health.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything? We've got about a minute left.
Definitely. I believe what Caroline did was actually a great program. It actually showed that there is a lot of needles out there. But, you know, in Vancouver, they're doing Spikes on Bikes. It's a great program where they actually have people that are, you know, coming out of that situation and understand, and they're kind of an additional eyes on the ground, ears on the ground, and they actually know how to deal with people, and it's actually giving them jobs, and they're actually great in the neighborhood. We need people walking the streets, helping people, and the fact that a lot of these people were either homeless or had previous addiction issues, they actually can communicate with people in that situation and maybe even help them and coach them. And we have to definitely look at that program because I know they are collecting a lot of data. And I think bringing something like that to Kamloops would probably be very beneficial.
I would just like to add that when I did a needle buyback program, one of the things it did is it created consequences and a sense of well-being to the actual user. I mean, if I knew a user had 100 needles on Monday, I wasn't buying back from her on Wednesday unless she brought me all 100.
Right.
And so within a week, those users were bringing everything they had handed, and even though I'm not out there buying at this moment, they're still taking their needles back. So it's learned behavior, it's consequences, and they're craving that. They're looking for someone to step up and say, this is what you should be doing, and this is why, and that's a big missing piece.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And it builds community, I think, whenever you involve other people.
Yeah, and it shows that people care.
Yeah.
Thank you very much to all three of you, and of course, best of luck tomorrow, and we'll be anticipating the results, of course. More information and the candidate profiles on our website, cfjctoday.com. That concludes our special election segment here on Midday, so we really appreciate you guys being here. We're back in a couple minutes. Stay with us.